It wasn't because you
Yes,
didn't
what
put
are you
the Zoom on.
suggesting then this morning?
No, I'm just saying. Hearing the amen just triggered that thought on Methodist history. But there we go. Right, we're online now, and we are looking at Luke 20, verses 9 to 18. So nine verses, and it's a parable about the wicked tenants, and not in the modern sense of the net word. So, would someone like to read and someone like to pray?
I'll do either.
Okay.
Happy to read. Happy to read.
Happy to read. Okay. Would you like to pray, David?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Father, it's so good to delve into your word and to feel the life that's in there. And Lord, as we come before you this morning and just look into this wonderful book, Lord, I just pray that that life would be revitalized within us and that we would see things in your word that we've never seen before. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So from 9 to
18.
19, yeah?
Well, 18 or 19, I think it is, something like that.
19, yeah.
Is it 19?
Okay, he went on. I'll just stop when I think to stop, yeah? So
Yeah,
maybe into next week sometime we'll stop.
Go for it.
He went on to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard, rented it to some farmers, and a long time. At harvest time, he sent us the tenants so that they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. He sent another, but that one also they beat and treated shamefully and sent away empty-handed. He sent still a third, and they wounded him and threw him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I'll send my son, whom I love. Perhaps they'll respect him." But when the tenants saw him, they talked the matter over. "This is the heir," they said. "Let's kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When the people heard this, they said, "May this never be." Jesus looked directly at them and asked, "Then what is the meaning of that which is written? The stone the builders rejected has become the capstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, but he on whom it falls will be crushed." The teachers of the law and the chief priests looked for a way to arrest him immediately because they knew he'd spoken this parable against them. They were afraid of the people.
Right.
Morning, Jenny.
Morning. So I'm a bit late.
Morning, Kitty. Morning, Sue. Morning, everybody. I'm just noticing those joining us. Good to have Kitty with us from Dundalk.
Yeah.
Right. So this morning we're looking at Luke 20, verses 9 to 19, I think was read. And this is a parable of the tenants, the wicked tenants. And it's interesting, at the end of this, the Pharisees and scribes and everyone were looking for a way to kill Jesus because he'd spoken against them and told this parable against them, is how they saw it. And then Jesus brings further things about the capstone, which is very interesting, or the cornerstone, as some people translate it as well. So that's a very interesting parable. I think it'd be great to dive into that. So obviously the owner of the vineyard is God. I think in this parable, and I think that's the interesting thing is the land of Israel was always something that belonged to God, and it didn't actually belong to the people. He gave them land that was to be in their families and those things, but actually the land was always his. It was, and he was giving it to them. But in some ways he then put things on that. If you look at the Old Testament, of Jubilee, so every 50 years the land went back to the family that originally owned it, and actually it meant that every generation had a shot. And the price of land should change by Jubilee. So at the beginning, just as soon as Jubilee happens, the land's very expensive because you can sit on it for 50 years. But actually, as you get closer to Jubilee, the land would get cheaper. And so there was a lot of these things going on if you read the Old Testament on land and things. And so I think it's very interesting in this that the vineyard is rented to these guys. And the owner of the vineyard comes to collect his rent, and that's a very interesting scenario. So I'll throw it open and see. Hopefully, I've got some thoughtful juices going it all around the houses, but without actually touching the content itself. So therefore, we'll go for it and see what you guys have, what comes to mind.
It's interest. Sorry, should I put my hand up?
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm sort of reading that, and I've been reading Isaiah, and it just sort of triggered something. And there's a similar, well, not a similar, but there's a sort of a linked passage in Isaiah 5 with God's disappointing vineyard. It's labelled. So Isaiah 1 through to about 16, I think it is, and even there, I mean, it looks like Jesus has sort of adapted that to be much more concise and pointed towards the Pharisees. But it's this last passage: he will come and destroy those vine dressers and give the vineyard to others, which means that he's talking about actually Israel not being the only place where God is, but it's actually going out to the Gentiles as well. And in Isaiah, if I can find it, he says, there we go. In Isaiah 5:5, he says, "Now please let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away its hedge, and it shall be burnt," which means it takes away the defense or the barrier to anybody else, and it will be burnt so others can come in. And Isaiah's a little bit more forthright on what happens to the vineyard there. It sort of grows briars and all the rest of it. But I think Jesus's point here is that the people who have been appointed to look after the vineyard, the Pharisees and the lawmakers, are actually not doing the job, and he's going to destroy the son that's actually being sent to bring them not to boot, but you know what I mean. It's a good parable, and I noticed the chief priests and the scribes didn't have any problems understanding it.
Yeah. Any other?
Jesus didn't have any problem about Bingley, did he? Even though it was in parable form, it was clearly understood. He didn't shrink back from telling it as it is, as we, I think, sometimes do, don't we? We like to please everyone, stay in good. And there's a place for that. There's a place to stay, to not make enemies of everybody, but speaking plainly obviously has its place and might save people when we speak plainly.
Yeah, I think parables notoriously weren't plain speaking because there was a truth to be teased out. But in this case, it was very obvious to the powers that be that the meaning of this parable was against them. And I think that's that kind of very often you find people are trying to ask something contentious of Jesus. Is this right? And is that right? And should I give this land to my brother? Or should I do this? Or should I do that? And Jesus answers with something so kingdom orientated and off the scale that you just left astounded and think, wow, he didn't really answer the question, but boy, he set a truth out of that question that puts things in a powerful light. And so sometimes you find Jesus doing that with contentious issues. In this setting, he's actually, if I'm right, he's actually leading the charge on this one. he's bringing. He began to tell. It says, and he began to tell everyone this parable, which it would suggest it follows on from what happened before, where they were challenging Jesus' authority. He's actually turning this back a little bit on them and challenging their authority, reminding them they are mere tenants of what God has given them. And how are they doing with that, by the way? and I think, wow, go and challenge Jesus' authority, and then he asks you a question you can't answer without incriminating yourself, and then he goes on to follow that through with a parable that puts you on edge. I think it's fantastic.
It's also prophetic, isn't it? Because it talks about the son being
so
killed.
that's really what I mean by that.
Sorry.
So that's what I meant by the fact that it's quite plain speaking. My internet here is a bit breaking up a bit. So
Yeah,
is it the same for everybody, or is it just me?
It says Leslie Illingworth.
Is it just?
Yeah, it's yours.
No, David, is it just me or is it everybody's? It's
just you, because it says Leslie Illingworth's network bandwidth is low. So it's maybe your link to the Wi-Fi.
Right.
I'm just trying to be more polite than I'm just.
I'm on the same
I would suggest it's your device, not you, Leslie.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm just smoothing over some of David's words there, just to say it's your device, not you.
I didn't say it was that.
I don't normally have a problem.
There we go. There we go. Help is on its way, Leslie.
That yes, it follows on from the previous passage. Where it says in verse 9, he went on to tell. So although we're talking about a parable that kind of hides, in a way, it's a story and it's hiding, it was very clear that he was talking about them, was what I wanted to just finish what I was saying.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise I'd interrupted. It must have been the broadband. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, David, why is my...
I don't know.
Try not to...
Okay. I think this it's a bit jumpy because Leslie was there a minute ago and suddenly just boom, she disappeared. So I think it's the Wi-Fi a bit. So right. So thanks, Leslie. That was spot on. Any other comments from this? Any other? Go for it, Claire.
It's quite prophetic in the way that it's talking. They will be broken on the cornerstone. So he's saying that you have to follow God's ways. You've got to follow God's ways, or else yeah, you'll be broken on the cornerstone. The cornerstone's Jesus, isn't it? So he's basically telling them you're not doing things the right way.
Yeah.
And judgment is coming.
Yeah.
It must have been so frustrating, really, for the Lord, mustn't it? Because he sent all these different prophets and to tell the Jewish people, and they didn't look after them, did they? Just the same as this, just like this parable he's talking about, and it's just, even then they sent Jesus, they didn't recognise him. Just so sad. But he's prophesying his death as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just sort of wondering whether they understood Jesus as the Son or not.
No, we didn't. No,
They didn't.
No.
So the parables got even more meaning than they understood. But I think their understanding in saying, actually, I think what they must have read into it was Jesus is accusing them of being aligned with those who killed the prophets.
Oh, yeah.
And he's kind of saying, because if they saw it was against them and they the tenants, then the prophets that were sent as messengers from God to bring the message of saying to them, you're not doing the right thing, their ancestors killed them. And it's saying that even if God sent his own son, his beloved son, it says in the ESV, along, they'd kill him too. What does that attitude? How should God deal with that attitude? He should kill them, is what the parable's saying. Actually, they deserve death. And actually, that's a pretty powerful statement. And I think for their awkwardness, because it's been told in parable, parables are blistering because they're impossible almost to counteract, because it's a very powerful narrative. The story has been told in a very powerful way, and you've got this kind of sense where they're saying, right, what do you say to that? Jesus has just told this parable, and you go, well, what if you're on the back foot? You can't respond to that. It's like a thump. It's a tennis serve. It's an ace serve in tennis. There's no reply. There's no ability to get a bat to the ball. You can't bat that one back. There's no clever way around that. You just cop it. And so they're in the back seat there. They've been aligned by this parable with those who've killed the prophets. It's saying that the attitude of their hearts is so rotten that they would kill anyone to hold on to control. And then they prove it by deciding in verse 19, which I'm glad Leslie went to. My Bible didn't go that far, but hers obviously did. Verse 19, they saw this was spoken against them, so they looked for ways to kill him. So in actual fact, they were proving what the parable said. They were saying, anything that takes our control of this vineyard, we'll kill him. If a prophet comes with a message from God, we'll kill them. If someone comes with anything against our control of this little vineyard, we will kill them. And Jesus has spoken this parable against him, so we'll kill him as well. And I think, wow, there is control. There is a massive, massive sense of political control that almost justifies itself against every message from the rightful owner of the vineyard. And I think that's very powerful. And I think it's almost like, how do we react when people speak wrong of us? How should we react in a kingdom sense? Should we want to kill anyone that goes against us? There are political people, and if you do anything against them, you are written off straight away. There's like poof, and you've got some of those things going on in politics. That same attitude is alive and well in these chaps. Sorry to use the English term there, Kitty. Chaps is not very Irish, is it? It's but yeah, but I think there's some of that expectation. There's some of that difficulty, in looking at this. That actually, that political control is not what the kingdom's about. It's a totally different thing. It's turning the other cheek. It's showing love for enemies, doing good to those who are against you. There's a totally different attitude, and I think sometimes, that's tough love. That is
a kingdom heart, not an earthly heart.
Yeah.
Is it true? I don't know where I heard this, but the reason Jesus spoke in parables was because the absolute truth wouldn't be understood by us, that we had to learn through parables by exploring it and everything.
I suppose it makes you question and think about things, doesn't it? Whereas if you just said it out, they just disregard it. But I think you remember stories, don't you? Remember them, and you go over them and think, what does that mean? So it gives you a chance to really sort of question. Then it shows the people that really want to know the truth or not. Because if you didn't want to know the truth, you just let it go over your head, which a lot of them did. I suppose.
Yeah, because it says seek with all your heart and all your soul.
Yeah. You'll find him if you seek him with all your heart.
Yeah. So just looking at things, moving along a little bit. It's saying. Verse 16, he will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When they heard this, they said, surely not. And I just wonder about that. Why did they say surely not? Surely that's what they deserved. So in the story Jesus is telling in the parable, the clear response from people is, surely not, he won't do that, will he? And in their history, he already had done that to a certain extent when they went into captivity. And they're saying, surely not. Oh, no. Oh, I thought we were okay. Surely not.
It's so fun.
And they're reacting to a story, but in reacting to the story, the odd thing about their reaction to the story, it's the opposite of what would be justice in the story. If the story was separate from everything else, that story, the answer would be, yeah, of course he'll go and trash him, but especially when they kill his son. So the reaction would have been, yeah, well, that's what they deserve. But they say, surely not. Right? So his story provokes a reaction. No way! No, he shouldn't do that. Well, what should he do? They've killed his son. Under the law, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Actually, under the law, they deserve that. They've also killed all his servants. Surely justice would say that's what needs to happen. Their cry is surely not. I just wondered about that. I thought that was a bit curious. It's almost the opposite of the story. But it's exactly what they're saying. You're saying that about us as a nation. We don't want anyone else to take control of us. Surely not. That won't happen. That's a really interesting phrase, I think. That's Jenny.
It just shows shows us that they must have really understood the story a bit, mustn't they?
Yeah.
They're talking about Israel. So, mine it says, "May this never be." The people said. May this never be. But these are, mind you, at the beginning it says he went to tell the people this parable, so he wasn't actually telling it to the authorities, was he? But they probably heard it.
Well, they were in the crowd. I think as a crowd, and they challenged Jesus' authority, and then he was addressing the crowd, and he told the story, because it was a public attack on him and his authority. So you do that with a crowd around. Tell us, what authority do you use to do this? And he goes, well, I'll tell you what. You tell me what authority John had, and I'll respond to you. And they go, we don't know. Really? Because if you answer either way, you're in trouble, And so from that kind of response, then you imagine him addressing the crowd and telling this parable. And as he's telling the parable, the whole crowd know what he means. This is really interesting. They understand this parable. So you're saying that the guy is in charge of us. You're saying the government's corrupt, and as a result, they're going to be removed, and all of this kind of stuff. Whoa! I hope this doesn't happen, because it would be devastation. And actually, if you know how things are propped up in governments, the person at the top is rarely the person with real power. They held in power by other people. And so if you get rid of the person at the top, the thing that happens the whole way through the system is people lose power. And they don't like losing power, and it ends up in a whole mess. It's a bit like, you imagine all the officials in America when Trump went into power, and he starts removing people all over the place, and the whole change in power base, they didn't like it one bit, and they fought against it for all they were worth, and you get this whole turmoil in leadership. And I don't want to get drawn into Trump and Biden and all that kind of thing, but you get this turmoil in leadership, because when the leader at the top goes, the people supporting them very often go as well, and the ones under them go as well, and the whole thing cascades down. So they're saying, hey, no, we don't want the top leadership, because actually we're doing all right with some of this. May this never be. And actually you've got that kind of, may this never be, surely not, kind of statement is the opposite of what the story means. So what is the way out? So in the story, if we just stick with the parable at the minute, if the answer is no, the tenants shouldn't be destroyed, then what should happen? How does the master get what's due to him if they're not destroyed?
By changing the tenants' hearts.
Well, that's the only way through. But I don't think the crowd had thought of that. But they were hoping there was another way, but they couldn't think of another way.
Showing the tenants how they should be towards the people that were sent to them.
Yeah.
In the same time, giving them compassion. He's amazing, isn't he, God?
But if we look at what did happen as well, Claire, so he is amazing. So the tenants deserved to be destroyed, and they killed the son of the vineyard, Jesus. What did God do? Actually, that death of his son paid the price for all the wrong of the tenants. And if they put their trust in that, it brings their whole restoration. Who could have seen that coming out of the story?
No.
It's not the obvious answer. Surely not is the cry of their hearts. And surely not is the answer given by Jesus. I just think that's incredible.
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
Any other thoughts on the parable? We'll move on to the cornerstone, capstone, next. unless there's any other thoughts, I just don't want to pop back and forth. So I mean, if we're moving through, yeah, you look puzzled, Leslie. No. You're muted.
That was good.
Yeah, and the delayed reaction shows your internet's still not working.
Sound. No, it's very intimate. The sound is very intermittent, and I'm just wondering whether to actually come out. I've come out and come back in again, but maybe I should leave it to you guys this morning and.
Well, there is another answer, and that is to reset your router. Unplug it for 30 seconds and plug it back in again. But you'll lose this connection if you do that.
Yeah.
But that will make it help make it faster for you.
Okay. Anyway, I don't really want to distract from what you're doing. I'll maybe try and do something with the router. Yeah.
Well, see you back in a bit if you manage. Yeah.
Do you carry on?
Okay, no problem. So I just wondered whether Leslie wanted to say anything. That was all I was trying to give opportunity for there. So looking at verse.
Oh no, I was looking puzzled. Just that I'm trying to. Keep the thread of where you're going, and I mean, I was a little bit puzzled about what you were saying. When the people heard this, may this never be. I didn't fully get where you were going with it, Nigel. I suppose, if I'm honest.
Basically, if I told you a story and I said there were guys looking after a vineyard for a master, and they never paid him any of the rent, and when he sent people to collect the rent and collect the fruit that he's owed, they kill them, and then when he sends his son, they try and kill him too. And then the people at the end of the story, when he says, well, surely the master will come and sort them out. And they go, oh, surely not. Oh, may this never be. The statement they're making doesn't fit with the story. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah, I think we've lost Leslie. Right, so looking at the next bit, they said, surely not, but he looked directly at them and said, what then is this that is written? And he quotes from Psalm 118, verse 22. The stone that the builders has rejected has become the cornerstone. And in other words, the stone that the builders rejected, anyone who falls on this stone will be broken to pieces. And when it falls on anyone, it will crush him. And you've got this double-edged sword in a way. Jesus is the cornerstone. And whoever goes, oh, I need you, Jesus, and falls on him is broken. There's a brokenness. But Jesus is also the conquering king coming. And on whomever the stone falls will be crushed. It's not the same result. Mm-hmm. The crushed and broken are two separate things.
It reminds me of that Sue said about it, these kind of parables being like a diamond. There's so many facets to it, isn't it? There's just so many different sides
Yeah.
to it. And probably when we get to be with him, we may discover sort of 5, 6, 7, or even 20 sides to it, and then we'll be with him, and there'll be a trillion sides to it.
Yeah. And you think the falling on Jesus and being broken. How have we who know Jesus been broken by coming to him? We've had to break our pride up. We've had to say, actually, we need you, Jesus. We've actually had to fall and say, Lord, I can't do this. I give up my determination to make everything right ourselves, and I fall on you, and I lay down on you. You know, there's a brokenness in that, and that brokenness, you know, is very, very powerful. You know, and hi, Carolyn. I'll just, yeah. So, yeah, this broken.
I just jumped on, sorry.
Okay, no worries. This brokenness of falling on Jesus is an interesting thing. I don't know. You know, it means that broken people can fall on Jesus as well. But whoever falls on him, there's a brokenness, and a brokenness. If you had a horse, and you break in a horse, it means you can ride the horse. It's tamed in a way. And there's something of us laying down on him, and making him Lord. There's something in that brokenness that breaks our own self-will, and it becomes about his will. There's something of that breaks through, that is incredibly powerful, and there's a brokenness in it. And whoever falls on the stone will be broken. But when the time comes for Jesus, the conquering King, his return, the stone comes with crushing force.
You know what's happened to me then? broken into like powder, and it's just all it's all gone, and I can't get it back. I can't get it back.
Brokenness beats selfishness, because it's dying to self, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
If you are broken, die to yourself. When I came to the Lord, I was so broken. I still remember to this day lying on my face down, just crying for hours and hours and hours. I was so broken. And yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It releases you of so many things you just don't realize until you give yourself to God and say, God, I can't do it. You do it all for me. And you just give yourself over to him. And then you get, it's like a chrysalis, isn't it? You then transform into a butterfly or an eagle in the Bible, that you can just soar through the sky, knowing that you're saved because of him dying for us.
Yeah.
It's also, it's also knowing what he's done for us. I mean, when you know what he's gone through for us and taken all our sin on it, that can make you feel broken. I think you have to be broken, really, to really, really follow him, to really be broken and realise that we're the ones that actually, although everyone, in here saying obviously the Jewish people rejected him, but we all rejected him. We all hammered those nails into Jesus' hands, didn't we, by our sin? Knowing that, really. And that, but I was just also thinking about, you know, I know in this story, obviously it's different, but, you know, when things are crushed, like when grapes are crushed, then you get the juice out, you get the, makes the wine, doesn't it? Because there's that chorus that says about, you know, in the pressing, in the crushing, you are making new wine. So in a way, but if you fall on him, you don't mind being crushed then, do you? But obviously, if you don't go to him, then, you know, he will crush you. It's surrendering to him, isn't it, really? It's surrendering.
And I think it also means that the kingdom is not for those that have it all together.
No, that's right.
It's for those who've been in some ways broken. The people who have it together, actually, who don't need Jesus, who don't need the cornerstone, who reject the cornerstone, that they'll be crushed by it ultimately. But actually, those that do need him, the broken, you know, the people who throw themselves, even the ones that have it together and throw themselves on Jesus, there's a brokenness that comes from that. And I think there's a beauty in that. There's a strength in that. There's a rebuilding that comes from that. That's so powerful. And I think is the nub of the story really, of where it's going. You know, because Jesus is introducing himself. And so in the story, they say, surely this can never be. Actually, he's then saying, well, tell me what this means. What is the cornerstone? What is the capstone? You know, actually, I'm going to tell you that whoever falls on this will be broken, and whoever it falls on will be crushed. And actually, there's that need to fall on him and throw our determination onto him, throw everything onto him. And I think that is where the salvation in the story comes from. So in answer to their surely not, Jesus gives the answer. The answer is the capstone. The answer is the Son. The answer is that throwing yourself onto the Son. You know, and I think that there's a brokenness in that. And that's a brokenness that the powerful authorities were not willing to pick up. So they thought the only way out of this is to kill the Son, which actually proves the story, which is very interesting.
And the way out of it is to what? To kill themselves?
Sorry? No.
Only way out of it is to what? Sorry?
Sorry. You've missed most of the conversation, Carolyn.
Okay.
What we're saying is the parable of the vineyard with the tenants, the wicked tenants, is what we're looking at today.
When they killed everybody. Yeah, they killed everybody.
Yeah. And then Jesus, the end of the parable, they say, "Oh, surely not." And then Jesus says, "He's the capstone. He's the cornerstone. Whoever falls on this stone will be broken, and whoever the stone falls on will be crushed." And what he's meaning is that actually, the way out of the story of the vineyard and the tenants is a falling on the Son. And
so if you're crushed, what happens?
No, if
die?
I don't think that's even part of what he's saying. I think what it's saying is that if we fall on the mercy of God, there is a brokenness in that. It has to deal with our pride and our self-determination and a whole load of other things. Have to be, when we fall on him and declare our need of Jesus, then there's a brokenness in that. We don't have it all together. And actually, it's when we don't have things all together and that we recognize our need of Jesus, that our salvation is in that. It's where we think we're self-determined and proud and upright. That's not where salvation comes from. And I think that's the point of this.
Yeah. So when it falls on you and you're crushed, what happens then?
Well, I think that's at the end. I don't think that has happened fully yet. The day of judgment hasn't come yet.
Oh, I see. I see. So it's like different timing.
Yeah, but it's that responsiveness when we notice that, hey, we've got an issue here where we're not going God's way.
Yeah.
There's a need to throw ourselves and go, Jesus, have mercy on me.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's me.
And in our
And
brokenness,
he does.
he puts us back together.
So there's hope then.
Always,
There's
always. There's always hope.
There's hope. Yeah.
Always hope.
There's hope.
As
Right.
long as we die to self and keep our eyes on him.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, I don't know if there's any other comments anyone has. Any wisdom from Dundalk, Kitty? No. Okay. Right. Well, I think we might leave it there, if that's all right with everyone.
Sorry,
Just joined you.
Oh, sorry. Kitty's just Go on, Kitty.
No, sorry, I just lost. I couldn't get back into it there. No, I just try to enjoy it. It's just very I love the way Jesus teaches, the way he gets the truth
Yeah.
at the Pharisees in parables. You know, the way he can stab at them and show you can outsmart them. You know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he certainly does. Yeah.
That's the one. That's the parable where he where they kill the son as well, isn't it?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
And then he introduces himself as the capstone immediately after that.
Yeah.
So he is the answer to the story.
Yeah.
And I think that's very powerful. But most people wouldn't have known that then. It's only later it became clear.
Yeah.
But thank you all for your comments. I think we'll move this offline now. And